Recording in progress. Hello, everyone. This is Valentina Rada, and we continue to talk about applied ethnography. This time, we reach out to step number 3 in the ethnography roadmap, and it's about social mapping and scratch mapping. So really quick, the 3 topics I chose from this chapter and for this week discussions are social mapping in a trans walks. What are local reactions when we do social mapping? And also key instructions for performing social mapping. So, social mapping versus transact walks. First of all, that social mapping, Palto highlights it as being a way to find out the locations of different ethnic groups, local organization, and other social cultural features. So it's our way to find out where we are going to perform research. Whereas transect walks is walking with local guides and analysts through an area, observing, asking, listening, discussing different zones, and mapping those zones. So as you can see, these are 2 different approaches. You find the locations where you work with certain local people to understand what will be the best zones or areas for the research. However, both of the methods are an excellent way to introducing to the community people the research aims and activities, and a way to learn about various social groups part of the research. Okay, so it's your way of engaging with the research community, not only drawing the social mapping. The next, and we talked about it in the previous chapter last week, about the reactions of the people in the community of what is the research about, but now what's the social mapping about. And mapping can be sometimes looked out with hostility, and even casual observing in the area can generate suspicions, hostility among the locals. And a great example Palto gives on page 82 is about, especially if you go in the rural area and you're trying to find out best locations for the research. People can become suspicious of any mapping because they are afraid of outside consequences. One of the things could be government going to seize their land, or that they are going to be taxed. So this kind of scenarios in their world can mean a lot. So you have to be mindful of the implications of getting too close in the people's area. Now, as it relates to the instruction for social mapping, a couple of items here. Palto outline in the book, and that's about ask the research community to do the actual mapping, drawing the features of their local community. Then have a small group of informants. It is best to have at least 3 or 4 persons as a small group of informants, kind of to help you drive to the insights, and like we were saying earlier, to those areas that locals could be suspicious about. Provide instruction about what's needed on the map. In the case of a research, for instance, a research in education, you may ask the mappers to provide locations of different type of schools in the community. The same in a hospital, if you go, what are the locations that would relate to the research, to your research topic? Start with a small portion, start with like small, with a few streets. For instance, if you're going on the rural area, or with a main street, or start small, or like in a case of the hospital, start out with just a couple of offices that you will be looking into. or departments. Also, be sure to have a list of one or two note takers. Write down two, and those note takers will be helping you to write down all the comments that people make as they continue mapping, marking on the map. Those notes can be further on using the research, like key starting points. So really quick, what we talked about, we talk about the difference between social mapping and transect walks and how important are these particular items for engaging participants in the research early enough. How the researcher, when doing social mapping, can be treated with suspicious, or people can be cautious about why the researcher is there. And then a couple of instructions for social mapping, which could be, have a list, 3 or 4 persons as a small group of informants, or start small when you do mapping, or be sure that you have at least 1 or 2 note takers to understand and kind of note the comments of the people as you continue to do the mapping. So really quick questions for this week would be, why do you think social mapping is important and relevant in an ethnographic research? And question number 2, what would be the role of a small group of informants in the process of social mapping? These were the references for this video. Again, I look forward to your discussions, and if you have any questions about this step in the ethnographic research matter, just feel free to reach out. Thank you and have a great week.